Hello again everyone, welcome to my workshop. In my first video that I recorded, I mentioned that I've added another controller for something called a DJ deck to my CNC router. This video I hope to demonstrate to you its capabilities, at least show you what it's about, show you the software, the configuration. Won't be every single setting of the software, but it's just to give you an idea of what is required. And hopefully this will be of use to you, be it that you are already an experienced user or someone that is new to CNC routing like myself, and that you can learn from it. Right, so this is the DJ deck, or the DJ deck box. It consists of fundamentally two pots. We have a 4-core wire feed into this box, which consists of 2 power wires and then 2 signal wires fed from the 2 individual pots back into the controller. Each pot can either be a 5 or a 10K pot. Multi-turn is preferred. These are 5-turn multi-turn pots, and that allows you to have finer control over your feed rate and your spindle rate. For myself, I have set the percentage change from 0% up to 200%. In other words, the feed rate I can bring to absolute 0. The feed rate I can also move up to 200% of whatever it is at the moment. That gives me a lot of scope of change. If there's a need to change during the workpiece that I'm busy with, or that you're just experimenting and you want to find the ideal settings for your particular machine, your bits, the type of woods or whatever material it is that you are using on. So if we have a look over at that part of the screen on UC CNC, you will see that there are 2 settings, 101%, 100%. The top one is for the feed rate, and if I adjust the lower potentiometer, I can change that setting to whatever I want, from the 0% all the way up to the 200% mark. Now, one thing to bear in mind is that once you have this controller installed and used, you always need to have this box connected. So the moment you disconnect it, it's going to, the controller on the CNC router is going to assume that your pots are either at 0% or 100%. I haven't tried that yet to determine which it is. And then of course the top pot will adjust my spindle speed also up to 200% and down to 0%. But you will also see later in the video that reducing to 0% here does not actually stop the spindle, at least on my machine for the controller that I have. I'm not 100% certain for the reason for that, but that's just the way that my controller on this particular machine works. Now, to configure this, it is a fairly simple process. I'm not going to go through every single step of the way, but once you have it set up, you go into the diagnostics menu, and then at the bottom right you will find 2 analog inputs over there, and each of those analog inputs are one of these pots. So if I adjust the top pot, which is my spindle speed, that is connected into analog 2, so that wire is physically connected into analog 2 port, and my lower pot, which is for my feed rate, is connected into the port that feeds into analog 1. Then if we go into configuration, you will see we have the feed rate. Analog channel 1 is selected, and our minimum is 0%, our maximum is 200%. That is where you can adjust that setting. So if you only want to bring it down to 50%, up to 150%, that's entirely up to you. This is the place that you won't go and do it. that you would go and do that. Spindle speed analog is mapped to analog channel 2 now. I could have made them either or, it doesn't matter, that's entirely your own choice. And again, 0% and 200%. Now these you change as per your own needs, whatever that might be as you deem necessary for your own machine, for your own tools, your own materials that you are using. Additionally, what you would have to go and do when setting this up, you need to go and have a look at the different axes, and in my case I've had to set all of the ports to port number 2 from whatever that was before. I don't recall what that was set before, but for the x-axis, the y-axis, also port to the z-axis, and I think also the spindle, I had to change that to port 2, and there may have been another setting somewhere else which I can't remember, perhaps this one over here as well. So everywhere where I had a previous port setting, I had to set all of that to port number 2. And again, as I mentioned, from the diagnostics screen, the bottom right is your analogs, so when you toggle those pots you should see those values moving. If you don't see them moving, then there is something wrong, so you need to go and sort that out. And then of course you go and change your configurations as needed. And then of course you go back to your run screen, load your file, and then of course you can go and set your different settings. So once again you can see there, as I've fiddled with those figures, they have adjusted to those values there. I can just bring them down and up respectively back to the 100%. Now it's important that when you start your work that you make sure that these are at 100%, assuming your tool paths that you've calculated, that you've already set the correct spindle speed, you've already set the correct feed rates, that you make sure that these are at 100% or very, very near 100%. What I found sometimes is that you might find that sitting at 101% or sometimes 99%, it is somewhat sensitive, and that is probably due to the fact that my min and max are set at 0% and 100%. So if you had to set that to something that is tighter, then I would expect that this would not be as sensitive to that, and it could just be temperature as far as the control is concerned, the pot itself, that it might just affect exactly where the ADC is actually reading that value. The ADCs that read the analog inputs, they are 16-bit ADCs, so the values that you will see, the digital values or the decimal equivalent of the digital values, will be from 0 to 65535, and that gives a very, very fine adjustment, and that allows you to be able to fine-tune your spindle speed and your feed rates quite comfortably, depending of course what you have set your min and max to. So I still have to adjust the pots fairly delicately on those two values, but it's not delicate enough that it's difficult to set, because if your spindle speed or your feed rates are 101% or 99%, it's neither here nor there. But I prefer to keep them at the exact speed that I have. But this has in fact helped me set my speeds and feeds for the inlays that I've done, and that has been something that has been very, very useful for me. Right, I'm back after having to recharge the battery of the camera. So now I will give a very short demonstration using this DJ box. The top pot, or the one furthest from me, to adjust the spindle speed. The lower pot, or the one closest to me, to adjust the feed rate. The program that I have set, or that I've created, the tool path is for a spindle rate of 6,000 RPM. You'll see that will ramp up to 12,000 RPM and then down to 0, or in fact near 0. On this machine's controller it doesn't in fact go right down to 0 for whatever reason. And also the feed rate will stop if I reduce it right down, but it'll also increase the feed rates. The default feed rate that I've set for this tool path is 1,000 millimeters per minute, so I'll set it up to 200% or down to 0. Right, so there we have the tool path in motion. You can hear the spindle at least probably over and above the feed rate. So I will increase the spindle speed up to 12,000 RPM. So you can hear that. And all the way right down again. Now this does not go right down to 0. In fact, the pot will go down to 0, at least according to the ADC reading, but the spindle seems to stay at a minimum speed. And if we look at the feed rate, I will increase that. That is 2,000 millimeters per minute, and we can reduce that right down and stop that completely. I've left the spindle speed as low as possible, just so that you can hear the feed rate, the servos, the actual change in frequency of them, or change in speed, and I'll increase that again. So there we're going up to 2,000 millimeters per minute, and I'll bring that down to 100%, which is 1,000 millimeters per minute. And then I will bring the spindle speed up once again, up to 6,000 RPM. Alright folks, so there we have it. That's the demonstration of the DJ deck for this machine. I will add links at the bottom of this video for all the different parts that I've used. The purpose of the DJ deck is not to cheat, if I can put it that way. It's not to simply allow you to just change speed for the sake of changing it. It's there to save your bits. You might have forgotten to change feed rate, you might find that you need to change your spindle speed, but it's also there to experiment, so that you can allow yourself to find the correct feed rates and spindle speeds for your particular work. It's helped me certainly, especially with the inlays that I've done. I'm right at the beginning of my journey of inlays, and using this DJ box has already allowed me to create inlays that are, I would say, near perfect, not 100% perfect, but very, very close to being perfect, especially on the finer detail, where I've reduced my feed rate quite considerably. Where I had feed rates in the region of about 1,000 millimeters per minute, I reduced that to 800, and I found that I had to reduce that even further, down to 600 millimeters per minute. So that is the type of thing that this will help you with. That's the purpose of it. So even though it can do a lot of things for you, help you out, it's there to allow you to be able to set things, and basically to allow you to educate yourself in your particular needs, your particular setup for your machine, for your bits, etc. Thank you for watching. I thoroughly hope you enjoyed this video. My second video, as I mentioned in the first one, it was quite a daunting task, at least of the text for the introduction of that video. And if you do like this, if you found it useful, please like and subscribe to this channel, and I aim to add more content that I hope you will find useful, especially for the beginners like myself. Things that you can learn, things where I've had challenges with, that you can also learn from. Thank you for watching, and hope to see you soon. Bye bye.